What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to WCP Minicast number 12. Really excited today. We have the one, the only Lisa Hancock with MarketPro Homes joining us. This is actually our first guest appearance outside of, I think, maybe Yoshka internally. So excited to kind of mix up the format and have guests from other companies with us. Lisa is actually the director of dispositions at MarketPro Homes, like one of the largest wholesalers in the DC metro area. Wearer of all hats. I'm sure she'll have more for us shortly. I'm also joined by Conor Reilly, our sales manager here at WCP. So very, very excited to get into the conversation. Before we do, I just want to give a reminder to everybody, please, on YouTube, like and subscribe this video. It really helps out the algorithm to allow you to find our videos and hopefully get you really helpful content. So without further ado, we'll kind of jump into this. And Lisa, if you can tell us a little bit about your background, who is MarketPro Homes in the marketplace today? A little bit about the background. How did you get there? What's your journey within the company? And then we can just kind of let the conversation unfold.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, Jared and Connor, for having me. And I'm really excited to be on here. So a little bit about MarketPro. I actually just had my 9-year anniversary. So it's been a long journey. And yeah, we have been doing this for a long time. This isn't something that we just jumped into when the market looked great. We started off in 2012 actually flipping houses, which is key to me being able to help a lot of my buyers. And the market was very different back then. It was great. There was a lot of REOs out and, we flipped a lot of houses, only pretty much in Maryland and just a few in the DC area, but we didn't even journey into Virginia. But we did close to 300 houses, a lot of houses. And back then, I kind of had done everything with MarketPro. I was their first employee. So, as we expanded and grew, I had a lot of different hats. But we did always keep, a really tight, small crew, which we almost have all of them still here today. But I was a project manager. So, and I think that experience and the contacts that I made and the volume of houses that we did, it really helps me with my buyers, if they have a problem or if they need contacts. I mean, I send out, contractor lists with people that I verified. I think it helps. And I've been there, done that. But about 2017, the market changed. Those REOs weren't sitting around anymore, in the MLS, and we had to pivot. And we started wholesaling. And I think that it's amazing where we've come now, and we're doing a lot of properties. And I think we have a great relationship with you guys. I'm very grateful for you taking care of the buyers, and I think it's wonderful. And I think that we've both built together since 2017. So grateful for that, and that's where we are right now. I mean, we're DC, Maryland, Virginia. Just opened up in PA. Yeah. I had my biggest month last month as far as sales, and I'm here to help.
So speaking of your biggest month, I think it was 42. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's a lot of movement. That's a lot of movement in 1 month. That's crazy. I think we talked offline, but does that make you guys probably one of the largest wholesalers like on the East Coast? Is that correct as well?
I have no idea what volume everybody else is doing, to be honest with you. I don't know, but
it feels that way.
But I feel that we're really strong, and I think we've we do what we say and we say what we mean, and I think there's a lot that goes behind that. So yeah. I feel that we're in a really strong position.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you just did 42 in a month, that means that you're seeing a lot of what's in the marketplace, and you're the top of the funnel for everyone at this point, right? You're out there, your team is out there finding the properties for the investors to make money on. So what are you seeing recently since the, let's call it middle of 2020 to now, and what do you think is going to be happening moving forward from what you've seen, really at the height of COVID to now in the marketplace?
So a lot of changes. I mean, there's a lot of answers to that. Our business has increased. I think that we're in a good place right now. Obviously, the real estate market is phenomenal right now. We did pick up some buyers that used to purchase auction properties, and I have a loyal crew of those buyers, and they're fix and flip. Those auction buyers were not buy and hold. So I have a strong core. I think the biggest transition for us lately has been that I am seeing more buy and hold investors. I mean, obviously, we're still selling distressed properties. So they're getting, they're buying the properties. They can buy, they can offer higher than somebody who's going to fix and flip. And I think what the main goal for these guys is, they're getting a hard money loan. They're renovating the property, and then they're going out and doing a cash out refi. I think, then they're putting it in their name and doing it. And that's the biggest change that I've seen. Everybody's still fixing and flipping. That's, and we've also adapted a little bit to pick up those deals. Maybe we would have turned those leads over to our realtor team. And now we're holding on to them, and it's been very successful. So that's one thing. I'm hearing a lot of feedback from my buyers. I mean, all the time people are asking me, what do you see? What's happening? What do you see? What's happening in the market? And from what I understand from my buyers, it seems like there's been a slowdown the past 2 weeks. But I personally, if you're, I just ask my opinion, I think it has to do with vacations. July 1st was a big difference in the world, in this Maryland area especially. And I think people are going back to work. Maybe they're going to take their vacation and put their, and then call us in August or go look for that house in August. So I, on my side, haven't seen a slowdown, but I have heard, it hasn't affected us.
So normalizing.
Yeah.
Normalizing more so than what's called a cool down.
Yeah. Yes.
It's so interesting. Like all of our, I feel like we have to have these conversations because with our individual data sets, like it's a small sample size. So like it could, for us as a lender, we could have a slow month and be like, oh my gosh, like is the whole market cooling down? But being able to talk between different companies and different, segments of the industry, I think is so helpful. For us, like actually last month was our biggest month of all time. We had a tremendous amount of originations this month, still very strong, at least what I'm seeing from my clients. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting how that works. I totally agree with you. I think it's a vacation thing. I think it probably has a big part to play in it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It coincides with, not getting political here at all, coincides with more people getting vaccinated and being more comfortable to go out. And historically, Q2, Q3 has been a little bit slower in the real estate industry, simply because of vacations, because school is just getting out. Generally moving happens right after that. So I do think that, prediction wise, we'll see the end of Q3, start of Q4 really picking up extremely strong, at least on our end. And I think it's going to continue on. But because you get to see so many properties, I'm sure you get a ton of questions about how do I win this deal, Lisa? Like we've talked for 5 years, like, me, what's the best way? What's the best way other than offering the most money to assist in trying to win one of the deals with you?
Okay. So there's a couple of ways. Really good relationships with most of my buyers. And I try, I say to them, look, if you're looking, first thing I'll say is squeaky wheel gets oiled first. right? If somebody's continuously, hey, Lisa, you know, I have buyers that'll text me, anything coming in Glen Burnie? When's your next Virginia property coming out? And if, as my buyers know, I have no problem. I am extremely transparent with a lot of things. I can't always give the highest and best offer, but I'm happy to guide and coach them along the way. And if somebody's looking for a property in Virginia, I'm always like, I welcome, first of all, shoot me a text, say something in the morning. Hey, Lisa, keep me updated. I'm looking for something in Virginia, because, you know, the deals go out, they go out fast. You know, when you're selling the volume that I do, most of the time they go out at noon on Monday. And a lot of times I'm only taking offers until 1 o'clock on Tuesday. So if you miss that text, like, you know, it stinks. And then I'll have a lot of people like, oh, darn, I missed that Virginia property. Is it under contract? I'm like, yes. So let's get back. Communication is key. Okay. If you're really looking for something, you've got all the stars are aligned, you've got your proof of funds letter, your LLC docs are done, and you're ready to go, let me know. Shoot me a text. What's coming in this week? What's in the pipeline? You know, sometimes we'll get 5 properties in a day and I can only put out 3, you know, so what's the harm? Hey, Lisa, what have you got coming in? My buyers know. I'm happy to say, okay, I've got, you know, a condo in McLean that's coming out and another property that just went out that's going out in Pasadena later today. So first, squeaky wheel gets oiled first. Open the line of communication. Let me know what you're looking for. Let me know that you're really ready to go. That's the first thing. Second thing I did, you know, as you know, and any wholesaler in this area is going to go by final and best. I mean, we're all in this business to make money. It's one of the reasons, you know, why I sat down and I looked and I kept hearing, well, how am I supposed to know? How am I supposed to know where they are? You know, and people just kind of felt a little lost. And I don't want people to offer too much, right? You know, I mean, if they don't make money, they're not going to come back to me for a deal. So after really rethinking this process, I did have the escalation clause added, you know, to our website. And I think it's made it easier for people to feel comfortable with their offers. I hear this all the time. Thank you for doing it. I'm really glad. So here's just a scenario, you know, don't offer more than you think. You know, if you're looking to make 30,000 and you're worried that you're going to lose your contractor if you don't get into a job, what's the use if you escalate up $1,000? You're going to make 29, but you don't lose your contractor and you still get a great deal. So I think that the escalation clause has helped buyers make better decisions. And as always, you know, some people don't get an escalation clause. They don't know how it works. They're uncomfortable. Like, how much, you know, do I escalate 5,000? I'm like, no, keep it low and explain the process to them. And I think that you know, people are grateful. I think it's helping really anxious buyers that need to get into properties do it. So that's the long and short of it, I guess. Communication is key.
We actually in our last podcast just covered escalation clauses. So it's perfect timing for you to come on board and talk about that. I know on our side, you know, we're not just lenders. You know, we've always tried to help our clients with the purchase of the property as well. And we've been telling people to do escalation clauses since 2017, 2018, and trying to build that into wholesale purchases, on market purchases, whatever it might be. And that gets back to something we've talked about many times here, is running your numbers at your maximum allowable purchase price and making sure that you still make money at that value.
Yes.
So knowing your numbers ahead of time at that highest price is key for winning one of your deals as well.
Yep.
So one of the changes that came about once COVID hit was no more open houses. You used to host an open house for every single property. Now you're roughly marketing 40 to 50 a month. Mm-hmm. Put it under contract 42. That's a lot of open houses. So right. Now there's no longer open houses and everything is sight unseen based on photos and videos. How does someone get comfortable offering on a property that they can't see at moment before offering.
I totally understand. Okay. And I talk with a lot of buyers about this. And let me just go back and say, like, nobody wants to do the open houses more than me, right? I wish that I had the time, number one. And I built my buyers list. You know, I feel like I really connected with the buyers. I believe, you know, I said over and over again, I believe in communication. I believe in relationship building. And I think that those open houses gave me, you know, it was great. So yes, I would love to be driving into DC and all around Annapolis. I actually enjoy that and I really miss it. But in all honesty, you know, you got to think it's still serious times, you know, and a lot of times most of our sellers are elderly, right? So, you know, you have that open house and they're there, maybe they're on a walker, and I've got 15 people there, because when I hold an open house, it's not 2 or 3 people, you know, it's 10 to 15 people, right? And, you know, they're coming in and it just presents too much of a problem. And too much of a risk, you know, we don't want to be responsible for anybody. I don't want the contractors, I don't want the investors, I don't want me, and I don't want the sellers or anybody to get in a situation where they rethink, geez, I wish I hadn't gone to that open house. So for me, that's a lot, but that's really where it's coming from. Would I like to get back into open houses? Yes, I would. But here's what I'm doing. Since we can't do it, you know, I do ask the acquisition guys, please take a video. Sometimes they don't even have the option of taking a video, you know. So if it's there, it's great. But let's go back to like something that I said in the very beginning. We flipped 300 houses, and I've been with MarketPro since day one, and I wrote, I would say 240 probably of those scope of works. So every deal that we went on, actually Danny and I would do the walkthrough of the property and I wrote the scope. So I am very versed in writing a scope. I'm very versed.
So you know what you're talking about is what you're saying.
I definitely know what I'm talking about. And I can pick things out that a lot of people don't see. So here's what I do with my buyers. You know, some of them are really clean and looks pretty basic. You know, some of them, I'll just go through the pictures. Like we'll go through the video, go through the pictures. You know, most of the investors, to be honest with you right now, have already flipped a couple of houses. I'm not personally dealing with a lot of people. They're just saying, hey, I just want to do one deal. I am happy to help. And I bend over backwards, as Conor, I know you do as well. Like we are a team. We'll help you get through this property. But if that's the buyer that's bidding on this open house, on this property without an open house, I have to sit down with them and go picture by picture and say, here's what I would do. And I do that. You know, I'm happy to do that. But generally my buyers feel comfortable. You know, like I said, you've got some that came off auction that they could never be through a property. And second, I guess third or fourth or fifth of all, here's the deal, like we stand behind what we have, right? So I could go into a couple examples, but you know, we've sold a deal. We had a property, you know, there was a slope in the floor. We asked the seller, and let me just go back to this. Most of the times the sellers are very transparent. Like they're happy to say, we've got this issue. The acquisition guy goes, did you ever get it looked at? Oh yeah, I had a contractor come and give me a bid. Can you give me the bid? Did you have a structural engineer? If they have that stuff, we get it from them and we post it with the deal. Like it's not about pulling the wool over somebody's eyes. So I think, not to go into all these other properties, but I think it's just, number one, being transparent, being there to help. You know, obviously if there's some huge problem, we're going to do the best we can as long as it's brought to us right away, you know, preferably through the walkthrough. And then the other process is this. So we get the property under contract. As you know, Lisa always works in lightning speed. Okay, so put the property under contract at noon, you know, got buyer signs by 4. Their EMD, which means obviously to everybody, earnest money deposit, is due by noon the next day. Okay, they get that in by noon, send me the wire confirmation. I forward it over to the transaction coordinator, which is Sandy and Clarice. Once that is confirmed with the title company, I tell my buyer, well, they automatically receive a welcome letter. Respond back to the welcome letter and say, hi, Sandy and Clarice, please set up my walkthrough.
Yep.
And just our process. It's kind of like driving a well-oiled machine, right? So, you know, they purchase, they make their wire, it's confirmed usually the following day, because you got to give the banks 24 hours. They get the welcome letter, send the response back to the transaction coordinator, and then they're setting up their walkthrough. So there's not a week that goes by unless they have problems with their wire, and they can get into the house right away. So, right, you know, we're addressing those issues generally within 4 days. But if it's somebody who's not comfortable, like, oh, look, there may have been water in the basement. I'm like, I'll look up the pictures.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to this picture. I see standing water in the corner over there. So I try and, you know, give them the comfort level that they see. Did you see the water in the basement? Did you see the cracked siding or whatever those issues are, so that everybody feels comfortable?
So do you think that there's a lot less new investors in the market than say there was 2017 and 18?
I totally feel that way.
Yeah.
You know, I think when the pandemic hit, we were still working with a lot of, you know, new investors. You know, they're calling me, they're kind of like the HGTV buyers that see it, and they have it, you know, maybe they have saved up some money for a down payment, and, you know, I'm connecting you. You can, I mean, you generally, when I get a new buyer, I'm connecting them. Hey, Conor, you know, this is a new buyer. That has definitely slowed down a lot. I think part of it had to do possibly, you know, with the pandemic, like maybe they just didn't know what's going on, or how to, you know, funding is different. Everything has changed, you know, and I think those people that were new were still actually working full-time jobs, and maybe they've, you know, maybe that's gone wayside. I'm not sure, but they're still out there. I just don't think there's as many, and I welcome them. I'm always happy to help with, you know, with whatever experience I can, you know.
Yeah, I know with first-time investors, I always try to steer them to not bid on properties that they can't see, especially with it's their first time. Because in my opinion, there's just a lot of things that could go awry. The only time I have trust in that is when they can sit down with you and have that 35, 40-minute conversation. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you even talked with their contractor before. On occasions, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I'll have them, you know, sometimes I Zoom, sometimes I'll have their contractor on. I've had a contractor on Zoom with me. I've had a contractor and the buyer on the phone with me. You know, that's what you know, it's just making the buyer feel comfortable, especially if it's a new buyer, right?
Yeah.
And maybe they've met somebody down the street is going to do. I'm happy to do that, and that's a great piece of knowledge, you know, to pass on to anybody who's new. That, you know, if you have your contractor, let's look through the pictures together. Let's go over the video. Let's point it, because he'll see things or something that they may say, oh no, that's too much for me, and the contractor may kick in and say, it's really not that bad.
Yeah.
You know, put a sump up in the corner. You know, it's just coming in because they didn't have the, you know, drain spouts going. So, you know, it's just putting people at ease so that they feel comfortable in all aspects of the deal.
Yeah, and that's both of our goals, to make sure that everyone is successful. Earlier, you mentioned that you're kind of having a shift in your business from a lot of fix and flip to more of rentals. Do you see that continuing as the trend, or now that some places are able to go through with some foreclosures, do you think there's going to be a little more fix and flip properties coming your way?
Okay, so I think that the trend with the buy and hold right now is generally because the interest rates are so low, right? You can take a second home, or you can, you know, do a rental, and you can still get, you know, great rates. I don't know exactly what they are. So as the rates creep up, that's going to change. People aren't going to be doing that as much, because most of them aren't cashing out and paying cash. they're, you know, a lot of them, you and I have buyers between us that have done that.
Mhm.
They fix and flip the property, you know, and with us, and then they go and refi it and turn it into a rental. So that is driven, I think, you know, where the interest rate is, right? So, and I actually did read another really good article saying that the rents are going back up in the city just yesterday.
Oh, they
so
are, I can tell you.
I know. So, but that's a good thing. You know, I think that's as far as our, you know, economy, that's a good thing. I'm sorry, now I forgot what your second question was.
Do you think that the fix and flips are going to come back as foreclosures open up more? Or is it still just going to be rental ready properties?
Okay, so here, you know, here's my side of it. I'm not sure exactly how it will be handled by the banks. I think personally, I think it will be handled by the banks different than it was back in 2012. I do not think they're going to put all those REOs back on the MLS. You know, I saw the change when we were flipping, you know, and instead of it being listed a foreclosure, you know, by a real estate agent, we had, you know, houses being, you know, fix and flipped by the bank. Right. So I know that they're not going to go back into another 2012 scenario. They've already done that. And maybe they'll hire contractors to do some of them. I'm not quite sure. But here is the scenario that we've had actually a couple of times this month where sellers know I haven't paid my mortgage. Maybe their health or maybe something else is going on. And now they're coming to us and they're saying, let's sell the deal. You know, they want to sell it before something happens. Maybe it's just been weighing on them. You know, I'm not quite sure. They just are like, let's get out. You know, first of all, anybody that's going to sell a property has to buy a property, right? Or they have to find a rental. So you hear the rents are going up, the property, you know, properties are keep increasing in price. So why wait maybe another 6 months while you're just sitting there in this you know, who knows what mode you're going to go into. And they're just calling us and saying, okay, you know, just take the house. I haven't paid, you know, and then, you know, the title company is going back and trying to figure out what the deal is or what's going on. But who's to say, honestly, I don't know, maybe you guys have some insight, you know, dealing with banks, that what's really going to happen with these foreclosed properties. I don't know. I don't know. What do you think?
I think your point about the banks actually rehabbing them, I think that's a great point. I definitely think the banks aren't going to take as big of a loss as they might have before. So I do agree with that. I think what could be even more likely is rather than just putting them on the MLS for everyday, you know, landlords to buy them, investors to buy them, they're just going to go direct to the BlackRocks of the world and all these funds that are aggregating these rental properties. Why wouldn't they just package up their whole portfolio and say, you look here, BlackRock, we're going to sell you 1,000 houses, you know, and it's the operational cost is such that it makes sense for them to do it that way, and just be done with it like instantly. So that could be another route too.
Yeah, I also think that there's a lot more bandit signs now, and people know the investment, real estate investment space and the fix and flip. It's much more popular now than it was, you know, the 08 time. There was just less people doing it. I think that for wholesalers, it's a great time to be in it because this is what they were made for, was to get out of these situations. So I think there's going to be a lot of calls being made like you're already having to yourself, Four Brothers, anyone trying to wholesale with a bandit sign out there, people just trying to look for a solution before a foreclosure actually occurs. So there's three scenarios right there. All that leads is to more opportunities for investors.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, at least, because as of late, it's been a little scarce on the opportunity out there for a lot of people. We see a lot of, you know, repeat business, but I would love to see some new investors coming into the space, because I know there's a lot of people that want to get into it. It's just that the price points and really more experienced people are willing to bid properties up because they're willing to take a smaller margin to keep their crews, like you mentioned earlier.
Keeping the crews busy is a really big thing. I don't know if some of the newer investors understand that sometimes, but if investors have, say they do Baltimore, the county, they'll take the investor, if they've got 15 they're purchasing 15 properties, they may overbid because they don't want to lose their contractor. I mean, I know when we fixed and flipped, we would do that. We would take a leaner deal, or we would take something where we're not making money, because you just got a contractor in motion. And I think, sometimes people are like, oh my gosh, like, why are people paying that much money for the houses? But that's it. Like, you don't want to lose your contractor. And if your full-time job is investing and you're doing 15 to 20 a year, you're going to overbid to keep your contractor working under you. And right. So it's hard for the small. It's a great thing to be like somebody who's doing smaller investing, to know, like, that's one of the reasons why the properties are good. It's not just like, oh my gosh, what's going on? But, they got to keep their crews busy, so they're willing to bid a little higher. Or contractors. I actually have had a lot of contractors that have flipped for 4 years, and now you're helping them get right into business, right? They've done like maybe 10 DC houses for investors. And so they're calling me, I see the website, what do I do? That's what they're saying to me. What do I do? Like, hold on a second. Conor, I'd like to introduce you to, Paul. And you're right. Like, these last ones that I've sent you, he's a contractor, has done 10 flips in DC before. This is the perfect person. But because he's a contractor, his costs aren't that high, right? Yeah. So he can come in a little higher as well, because he's been down that road many times. He knows what to do in every scenario. So I just don't want buyers to give up hope. These are just some scenarios that come along the way, why sometimes properties do get bid up, but it's not for all of them.
No, not at all. I mean, we've seen it a couple times that the numbers they don't make sense, and someone can offer 5, 10K under asking, and people will be like, yeah, let's go for it. We just want to move the property. Sometimes at the end of the day, it comes down to just being able to move the property on time for the end seller. Yeah. So right. if it means a smaller margin for people, some wholesalers will be able to take that.
Absolutely. And sometimes, in all honesty, we take deals on our end because we're doing it for the seller, Yeah. So we just want to help them out of their situation, which is something that we do quite often. And just one more note, like, I know this may be going off to the side a little bit, but here's the deal. Like, when you take a look at the deal, and if you feel comfortable with the deal, maybe it's down the street, and whatever the scenario is, you're always free to enter your final and best offer. Generally I'm selling over ask, but it's not always. Don't not make an offer because if we're putting it out at 280 and you're like, the max I can do is 275. If the max you can do is 275, please put your offer in. I tell you this over and over again, because what happens sometimes is you may not win that one, right? But I may get another property 2 months from that, and I'm going to go back to that deal, and I'm going to go, okay, who offered? And I'm going to give them a call and say, hey, did you see my property? You put in an offer 2 months ago. So do your due diligence. And even if you can't offer full price, still enter your offer, still entertain it. We're not selling anything 50,000 below. Like, I was going to
add an asterisk to that. The people that are always offering 50K under asking, that's a no-go in our market for the past 4 years.
Absolutely. And it's kind of silly, but some people don't really get the gist of it. But really, if you've done your due diligence and you like the area, please, I'm telling you, put the offer in, even if it's not an ask, because you never know what can happen down the line. Say something happens to the buyer. I'm going to go to that next one, even if it's under, and say, hey, are you still interested? So everybody do their due diligence. Call me if you have any questions, and enter where the numbers make sense for you.
Yeah.
Doesn't bother me.
Absolutely. That kind of wraps up my questions for you, Jared. I don't know if we have any other further questions that you want to go through.
No, I mean, this was extremely helpful. I mean, we really appreciate you joining us today. We definitely didn't want to go too long. We can save some for maybe another time, have you back on, continue to spread the good word about how awesome MarketPro is. And, you know, we loved having you on today. So I don't have anything else. You know, if you have any questions for us, otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. We can switch this up. Do you have anything for us?
No, I didn't prepare any, but maybe next time. I mean, you know, I think we have a great working relationship between us all, and, you know, basically we're just here to support the buyers, you know, and as MarketPro, we're doing everything we can to support the sellers. And I think, you know, we all have the same game plan, and looking forward to a lot more business.
A lot more to come. Yeah.
Yeah, likewise. It's great that all of our, you know, the goals behind all of our companies are aligned, and we just want to help people, and we want to help as many people as we can. So that definitely goes a long way in strengthening the relationship. So awesome. Well, again, for all those watching, please, if you can, go hit that like and subscribe button for us on YouTube specifically. That really helps. And until next time, thanks, and we'll see you again.
You guys, thanks.
Thanks, Lisa.